So I flipped 1,100 plus homes right here in Las Vegas. What does that actually mean? It means that I've purchased 1,100 plus homes, renovated and designed 1,100 plus homes, and then sold 1,100 plus homes. So essentially, if you combine all of my types of real estate, because I also do traditional real estate, I have done over 2,500 real estate transactions. Let that sink in. So in today's video, I'm gonna give you 9 crucial lessons, which should hopefully shorten your learning curve. So one of the things that you have as a house flipper is a tremendous amount of control. You have to think, in comparison to being a traditional real estate agent, listing or selling a home on behalf of a seller, you're really at the mercy of what that seller is willing to do. But as a house flipper, we have control. So you have to capitalize on that. What does that mean? You have the ability to go and buy air fresheners so that when your buyer walks into your home, it smells different. It smells pleasant, okay? You have the ability to go and buy a TV, and then here's the trick, put it in demo mode. There's nothing more beautiful than walking into Best Buy and seeing those horses running through water and the detail, the HD of the water splashing, in addition to the sound. You have to think, they have put this demo video together to make it so you buy their TV, AKA put you into a subconscious state of mind to want to buy something. So that targets your visual senses in addition to the beautiful flip that you've done. Also, it targets the sound component, because when you walk into some of these homes, they're silent, but you want to stimulate all of the senses. So now we've covered smell, visual, and we've covered sound, okay? What else can you do? You want to do touch. How do you accomplish touch? When you're picking out your materials, you want to make sure there's something that if they slide their hand across it, it has a sensation. When you pick out your shower tile, there should be divots in the tile. There should be texture to the tile. You want textures because you want people to be able to touch things. And when they go to touch things, I'll tell you the first thing they're going to touch is your cabinet hardware. So really be intentional about your cabinet hardware. Every buyer walks into a home and starts opening all of the cabinets. Same thing, for whatever reason, they always turn on the faucet. So if you have an opportunity to create a really special handle on that kitchen faucet, take advantage of it. But there's so much more to this game than just buying the cheapest material and putting it into the house and hoping that a buyer falls in love with it. You can be better by simply being better. Buyers touch everything. So you have to think about this. When you walk into a new build, what do you experience? The reality is that frankly, every single place that you walk into that is a business, you should be wildly conscious of what you're experiencing while you're in the mindset of a consumer. And as you become more conscious of it, you can then duplicate that experience that you're having for your customers. The best example of this is go to the M Resort. You walk in there and I don't know what they pump into the air, but you can smell clean, crisp, modern, fresh. That's just what you are feeling based on smell. So you could continue that all the way to like new builds. Go and walk a Toll Brothers home. When was the last time you walked a Toll Brothers home and there were blinds on the windows and they were shut and it was dark? Never. When was the last time you walked a Toll Brother home and it was dead silent? Yeah, never. That's why every model home has speakers in the ceiling, because they're always playing music. When was the last time that you walked into a Toll Brother development and didn't know what was included in your purchase? If you walk around, they have signs everywhere that say, yes, this undermount sink is included in your purchase. Yes, this is a standard feature. What are they doing? They're getting you to value the product that they're selling, which the more you can value the product that you're selling, the easier it is to get a consumer to part with their hard-earned money in exchange for the valuable product that you're providing. Think about that. So when you walk into every single one of my flips, there is a yes sign everywhere. People will be like, well, I don't know what the yes signs are about. This is how uneducated the consumer is. Then it's not bad. They're not meant to be educated in the real estate space. So it's our job to educate them. And how much time do we really get to educate them? You have to think, most of these buyers will make a decision whether to buy $400, $500, $600, $700, all the way up to a few $1 million home in a 20-minute visit. So when they're walking through, it's my duty to educate them on the product I have. I don't just put in an undermount sink and not get credit for it, because I know, and you know as a house flipper, that an undermount sink costs more. You have to polish the edges. You have to buy the sink and glue it underneath. That costs more. I want to make sure to draw attention to the additional can lights that I've put into the home. Most buyers will walk in, not even understand that there's an abundance of light in the property and not know why. And definitely not understand that that costs more money. Most of these homes, when they were originally built by the builder gave them one light in the kitchen, one light in the dining room, one light in the bedroom. What does one light represent? It represents one light bulb. So an entire space is being lit up by a light bulb. So now when you go in and put in $1,000 to $1,500 to $2,000 worth of can lights in a kitchen, the buyer doesn't know that you did that unless you tell them. And that lesson can be applied to every improvement that you make. So that's why I do yes signs. You get 20 minutes to convince a buyer to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. 20 minutes. You got to do your best. Let's dive into lesson number 2. The reality is everybody is out to fuck you. It doesn't literally mean that you need to walk around the world guarded. I don't believe in that. But I do believe that if you operate your business in defense mode, then you'll be keen to being able to identify when somebody is trying to fuck you. Let me give you an example. If I get a bid for $30,000 from a contractor or a vendor, and I go to them and I say, hey man, I can only afford 20. And they slam their price to 20,000. To me, I'm automatically out. Because the fact was that if I accepted the 30,000, they were okay fucking me out of that $10,000 because they could have done the job for 20. And anytime that you get into business with me, you get repeat business. So instead of you spending that extra $10,000 that you would have gotten rich on with one flip on marketing and attracting new buyers, your only job as a contractor when you get in bed with Josh Galindo at Galindo Group Real Estate is to wake up and work. What a treat that is. If you're a business owner, you don't realize how special that is. If you're a business owner and half of your day is focusing on getting new business and then charging that new business a ton of money so that you have a margin to be able to attract new business and then having to go out and execute your craft, that's a headache. So when you're in bed with me, my thing is nobody gets rich on one deal. I don't get rich on one deal. The work is consistent, make enough money to save some money and live a good life, and let's do a lot of business together. And so for me, if you are willing to charge me 30 and I tell you I can only do it for 20 and you slam your price, I'm out. The other thing I don't do is price matching. It's your best foot forward. I communicate that right up front. Give me your best number up front. So if I go out and get multiple bids and let's say one bid comes in at 5, one bid comes in at 3, and then I call the guy back on the 5 and I go, hey man, it's not a fit. I got someone that can do it for the price that I need it to be done at. And if that 5 goes, well, can I price match the other guy? What a disservice to the other guy that came in with a humble, appropriate price and to not give him the work because this other guy just price matched him. So right away, you're disqualified. Nope, no thanks. I'm gonna go with the guy that wants to conduct business and see this relationship as a long-term relationship. And that's the guy I want to reward with the business. So where will the everybody's out to fuck you mindset serve you? Is it's so easy to walk into any of these spaces because what we're doing is we're transforming a space. So it's easy to be excited. You walk in, you're like, oh my gosh, the floor plan feels so great. And you're overwhelmed with that feeling of excitement. And because that feeling of excitement is overwhelming you in that moment, your critical eye is no longer in play. The same thing can take place when, the drywall is put back and then the cabinets go in and then the flooring goes in. You're just overwhelmed naturally and understandably with a level of excitement that it crushes your critical eye. So what I have learned is that I don't walk into anything with excitement. I walk in, the first thing I do is start criticizing. I walk in leading with criticism. So I walk in, I go, where can I find that they fucked up? Where can I find that it's not perfect? Where can I find a way to make it better? And the reality is I'm a realist too. If I walk in and there's nothing not perfect, needs to be fixed, or needs to be made better, then I accept that. I don't try to find it and then drum up nonsense. I accept it. So I'm a realist in the sense of it looks good, but I never lead with, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful, because that will immediately suffocate your critical eye. And the key to success in this business is having a critical eye. Now, what I do, because I think it's important for you and certainly for me to get to experience that moment of excitement. Once I've scrubbed out all of the imperfections that I believe I have control over, then I enter into a space of excitement, and I genuinely do. I'll look at whoever I'm with, whether I'm alone, whether I'm with my wife, my partners, whoever it is, and I'm like, isn't it amazing? But I don't lead with that. So let's talk about intentions of other people, because everything about business that I have learned and that I've personally experienced is reliant on people. I always make a fun analogy. Here's $1 billion. You can't spend the $1 billion, but any money that you make on the $1 billion, you get to spend, but you can't talk to one human being for the rest of your life. How quickly would you be able to turn that money? You wouldn't. It's a great example that speaks volumes to how important relationships and people are to business. Having said that, it's important to be critical of intentions from people around you. It doesn't mean put that on your shoulder and wear it and tell the whole world that you're critical. It just means that first you need to lead with kindness and professionalism. Those are things that I lead with at all times. But don't fool yourself. In the back of my mind, I'm scrubbing, what is this person's intent? Is it pure? And even if it's not pure, I don't give a shit. What I say to myself is, can this person get me one tick further up the mountain? If that person can, and it's not pure intended, meaning they're not out to make me money, they're out to just make themselves money, but the plan they brought to the table will also make me money, I don't give a shit, but at least I'm conscious of the intentions up front. That's the big thing, is being conscious of their intentions up front. And then you have an opportunity to choose. Do I want to conduct business with this person? What is the outcome of conducting business with this person? Will it ultimately fail? Will it ultimately end in a tarnished relationship? On day one, if you say yes, but it's worth the risk, then I will pursue that relationship. My hope is that it won't ever be that way. I'm a big believer in win-wins. I believe a win-win can almost always be accomplished. One thing I will say, a win-win can almost always be accomplished. And if a win-win cannot happen, then I look around the parties at the table and go, how do we make sure the most amount of people win? And if that fails, then I always win. So many people, because they're programmed by society, believe in laying themselves on the track in exchange for somebody else. Well, one, they didn't try to make it a win-win. They could have looked at the person on the other side of the track and said, help me up. But they didn't think of that. They just said, no, I'll just sacrifice myself because that makes me a hero. I don't believe in that. I believe in making it a win-win, doing my best in the event I can't make it a win-win to ensure the most amount of people win. And if it comes down to nobody wins and I have to choose me, I choose me every single time. Flipping houses makes you rich. Owning real estate makes you wealthy. Huge difference. Rich is temporary, wealthy is long-term. Let me explain. First and foremost, every dollar you make that is generated through ordinary income. Ordinary income is I worked, I renovated this home, I sold it, I made ordinary income. Every bit of your earned income, what is earned income? Earned income means that I had to wake up, buy this house, check on it 1,000,000 times, renovate it, sell it, generate a profit. That's earned income. Every time that you make earned income, all of that money should be saved and then ultimately invested in an asset that generates passive income. So now let's talk about passive income. Passive income looks like this. I don't feel like waking up. I didn't go to work. I was intimate with my incredible wife. I played with my children. I fucked around with my friends and I went back to sleep and I still made money. That's called passive income. So earned income so often is being used to fuel and pay for these lavish lifestyles. What does that end up doing? It ends up making you hooked on the earned income. You can't get off that train. If you stop earning, your lifestyle is immediately adjusted. So what I did is I earned, saved, and then bought passive income assets. And then I built my lifestyle based on the passive income coming from those assets. If you know me, you know that I live a big life. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm proud of it. And frankly, I don't give a fuck what you think because I love the life I'm living. All of that is paid for by passive income. If I decided one day to just lock the doors at Galindo Group Real Estate and stop flipping homes, my lifestyle wouldn't be adjusted. It's so important that your lifestyle is paid for by your passive income. A rule that I always say to summarize this whole thing, if I sign up for long-term debt with long-term payments, then I have to have an asset that generates the same amount of cash flow a month to pay that asset. What does that look like? So if I decide to go and buy a car and the payment's $1,500 a month, I better have an asset over here that whether I'm awake or sleeping or having amazing sex with my wife, that asset is generating an income that pays that liability. Never ever take on liabilities that need to be paid for by your earned income. So the house flipping business, here's what it is it's like the Pablo Escobar jail cell. And if you've ever done any research on Pablo Escobar, it's actually a pretty great read. So go and Google Pablo Escobar jail cell. This guy was such a reckless cannon in his country, they had to put him behind bars. And he was like, I'm not going behind bars. And they're like, yes, you are. We kind of need you to. What they agreed on was, we will build you this incredible prison cell. You can have a chef. You can have girls come in and out. You can have furniture. You can have a TV. He had a whole courtyard. He could play soccer with his buddies. But that was his jail. Why do I bring that up? It's very similar to the house flipping business. The house flipping business is an incredibly sexy business. Everybody around you is like, oh, I want to learn how to do it too. Wow, you're making so much money. But the reality is that we're still in a jail cell and we're all waiting for the warden to come down and unlock that jail cell and go, okay, you're free. So while Pablo's cell was awesome, trust me, he still was waiting for the warden to come down and let him out. And the only way out of this incredibly sexy jail cell called house flipping is by buying rentals to replace that income. It's important to understand that. You don't want to be that 65-year-old house flipper that is relying on his next house flip in order to pay his bills. So for me, I'm conscious of, I was charged with a 30-year prison sentence. And I've made so many, in my opinion, good decisions that I believe I'm down to I got 5 years left to serve on my prison sentence. And that warden's gonna walk down and he's gonna unlock that cell. And I'm gonna be able to go house flipping, jail cell. You've served me well, but I'm moving on. This next statement is very much in alignment with this lesson. It's so important to maintain humility, and not humility to the people around you. I mean, that's a bonus. Not humility in the sense of, I'm just not a confident person. None of that stuff. Humility in the sense of how you perceive yourself. Because the reality is that there will be a day when you make $100,000. If you don't remember this message right here, right now, then that you will think you made it. And if you think you made it, you're done. Think about that. You made 100 grand and you're over here patting yourself on the back going, I made it. You've never made it. The reality is that you have to think about that when you get to 150, you still haven't made it. Because if you'd have thought you made it at 100, you would have been done at 100. So at 150, I haven't made it. At 200, I haven't made it. At 500, I haven't made it. At $1 million, nope, I got more. At $1.5 million, I can do better. That's the humility that I'm talking about, because that's what allows the cap to stay open for you to continue to earn more. The second that you sit back and go, ooh, I've made it. I've done better than everybody else around me. That's not what life's about. I don't compare myself to other people. I don't give a shit what other people around me have made. I really don't, because if I did, it'd be so easy to beat them. I could beat the guy that made 30 grand a year. I could beat the guy that made 25 grand a year, and then I made it. So I don't compare myself to the people around me. I compare myself to me and what I did yesterday and what I did last year and what I did the year before that. And as long as I'm always improving me, then I will always be able to beat me. Comparing yourself to others is probably one of the most detrimental things to business. It only matters about beating you. Let's go into lesson number 4, branding. First big batch of money, what do you do with it? Buy a Rolex. Why? Because it's not wasteful spending. Let's elaborate for a second. I have season tickets to the Golden Knights, to the Raiders. I have a Louis Vuitton backpack, 3 Rolexes, 2 APs, and a Cartier. I have 3 vacation homes. All that sounds like frivolous spending, right? Everybody around me is like, this guy just spends money on everything. Well, let's go through each one just for giggles, because this is going to teach you the difference between being able to spend money on assets that may be perceived as a waste of money to the general public, and just straight up fucking spending money on shit that has no return on investment. Okay, let's talk about the Raiders tickets. I sell 2 games a year. 2, Green Bay Packers and Steelers. Pays for my entire season. That's an asset. And if I wanted to sell 3 or 4 games a year, I'd now have an asset that cash flows. And I'd still be able to go and enjoy the perks of having season tickets. Think about that. That's not wasteful spending. That's intelligent spending, okay? And think when the Raiders get better. The Raiders suck right now. When they get better, I could probably sell 1 game and pay for the whole season. Let's talk about my Louis Vuitton backpack. Spent $2,500 on that bag. I bought it 5 years ago. If I sold that bag today, I'd get $2,500. That's an asset. Now you, Mr. Cheapy, went and bought a JanSport. Good for you. What's that JanSport that you spent $180 on worth the second you walk out the store? Zero. You couldn't pay somebody to fucking take your used backpack. Okay, let's talk about watches. Rolexes, Audemars Piguets. I think those are the two most important brands. I bought my first expensive watch. It was a Daytona Rolex stainless steel white face. That's a very, very rare watch. Bought that watch in 2017 for $11,750. And if you have any understanding of watches, you'll understand that I absolutely fucking ripped that watch. That watch today is worth $27,000. Good investment or waste of money? An investment. And what has that watch done for me while I've owned it? What have my Raiders tickets done for me while I've had them? What has the message been to everybody around me by having a Louis Vuitton backpack while I owned it? All of these things have improved the quality of my life first, have enhanced my personal brand, and have put me in circles that I can connect to people that have the same amount of fucking money. Are you getting it? None of it's wasteful spending. It's all incredibly intelligent spending. That's the differentiator. Buy expensive things that either generate cash flow or will put you into a circle with a high barrier of entry. Think about that. If you buy a $300,000 car and you go to a Lamborghini meetup, everybody there has the ability to afford a $300,000 car. You're over here scraping by trying to figure out how to afford it, but you just bought your way into a circle of people that can afford $300,000 cars. If that's not gonna up your game, I don't know what would. Okay, versus you go and buy a $25,000 car and spend fucking 25 grand making it look like a rice rocket and it's worth nothing. And you go to these car meetups with all these loud mufflers and lowered cars. What's the barrier of entry at that meetup? Are you getting my point? So the first thing you should go and do is buy a Rolex. Why? Because your car sits in the parking lot. And when you walk into the meeting, anybody that understands what you're wearing will give you credit for it. And if they don't understand, then their opinion didn't fucking matter anyway. So here's a funny story. I think I'm pretty good at branding, but how did it all start? So I was in a lawsuit with a previous investor of mine, and we all shopped at the same store. Shopped at Lowe's and Home Depot. At that time, there wasn't Amazon. Lowe's and Home Depot. And the last thing I wanted to do was run into him. So I was like, you know what I'll do? I'll go and put my company logo on the side of my car. And then I'll park my car in the loading zone next to like the pre-built barbecues you always see, right up front every time. So that way, if I'm inside the store and this guy shows up, he knows I'm fucking in there. And I know he didn't want to run into me either. That was how it started. But then all of a sudden people are like, hey, I saw your car at Home Depot. And I was like, really? They're like, yeah. And then at the gym, hey, I saw your car at the gym. People were able to follow me, and I was always maintaining being top of mind. At that time, I had a white Audi A7. Out of some crazy scheme, do you think Audi made more than one white Audi A7? Probably, right? To try to make some more money. So if my car's in the parking lot and 5 other ones are in the parking lot, they don't even know where I'm at. AKA, they're not thinking about me. So the second I slapped my logo on the side of the car and they saw it, they thought about me. That's a powerful thing. Always staying top of mind. Branding is huge. Let's talk about lesson number 5. Understanding what you're doing. Would you play with an AK-47 if you've never played with a gun and just spin it around? No, you wouldn't, because it could fucking kill you. The same thing applies to the house flipping business. I don't know much about guns, and I could tell you right now that if someone handed me a loaded AK-47, I wouldn't even want to touch it. And then there's gun experts out there that you could hand them a loaded AK-47. They know exactly what to do with it, how to ensure safety, and enjoy the weapon. That's the same logic with house flipping. So many people are going out there and just buying real estate, and they're really buying the payment and not realizing what they're actually buying. You got to think, an entry-level home in Vegas is like $400,000. Just because you're signing up for a $2,800 payment doesn't mean you didn't also sign up for $400,000. If you don't understand the amount of money that you're actually playing with and understanding the economic factors that could play a role in your ability to successfully get that property and exit that property, then you're essentially playing with an AK-47 that's loaded and they have no idea what you're doing. So something that I try to preach is it's not about, well, what do you think it's worth? When somebody asks me that, I'm like, are you kidding me? You're just gambling. What do you mean, what do I think it's worth? I don't think or feel what anything's worth. I go and I identify data that shows what it's worth. There is no gut feeling in this game. And if there is, it's about 5% of the business model. 95% needs to be built based on data. So many data points. Well, how many ERs are in the city? And then the thing is if you aren't tracking it, then you don't know how many actives, available homes in the city there are. If you're not tracking that consistently over time, you don't know if 10,000 is good or bad. You don't know if 1,000 is good or bad. It's important that when you're conducting this business, you're staying up to speed on the data so that you have perspective. So you have actives, availables on the market. If you've got a 2-story with a 3-car garage and a pool, how many of those can be bought in the whole city? And if you're not staying up to speed on that, you don't know if 100 is good or if 10's good. So it's important to stay up to speed. Paying attention to the government, the Federal Reserve, the 10-year Treasury, what the interest rate climate looks like. There are so many data points that put you in a position to not be a house flipping gambler, but a true house flipping investor that's educated on the product that they're investing in. And let's talk about this for a second. When the market's great, they think they're the magic sauce. Isn't that fucking amazing? Well, the market has done one thing since 2011, it's gone up. So if you've entered into the housing market as a house flipper from 2011 to today, you probably think you're the magic sauce. But the reality is that a much bigger machine called the Federal Reserve, the US economy, has probably been blowing on your back pretty hard. So the reality is that you are a piece of the success. And that goes back to the humility. The second you think that you're the reason that everything is going your way is the second that you'll get caught with your pants down, because you're not. You have to be conscious of all of the factors involved in house flipping. And yes, you are a big part of it. I am, in my experience level, and my eye for detail, my eye for design is a huge part of it. But I'm also very conscious that I am not the only reason, that there are other factors that are involved in my success and or failure. The next lesson, being fucking ruthless. Do you see that tone that I had there? It's not a tone that I live my entire life with, but boy, I could fucking tap into it if I need to. You see what I'm saying? So establishing that muscle and practicing it and not being afraid. A good visual that I give people when they're like, oh, I want to flip houses. I'm like, come here. They're like, what? I'm like, turn around. And I'll fucking take my knuckle and go right down the back of their spine. And if they don't know that having a spine or a backbone is absolutely crucial to flipping houses, then you might as well not even stop, because you're gonna be taken advantage of every step of the way. You will be bent over, no condom, no lube, and no spit everywhere you fucking look. It's so important to have a backbone in this business. What does that mean? Well, my construction's delayed. Well, I don't know how to tell the contractor to hurry up. You walk in there, you go, bro, when can this house be done? You give me a date. He's gonna give you a date and you're gonna go, listen, you pick the date. Now it's my job to hold you accountable and it's your job to hold yourself accountable. On that date, I will be back. And if you are not done, I will give you a 2-day grace period. If you are not done by that 2-day grace period, you will be fired. Do we have a clear understanding? And if he responds with yes, then when you fire him, he shouldn't be mad, right? You prepared this guy. That's called a backbone. All of that energy. I'm intentionally going in and out of that energy to show you guys what is necessary. Now, what also is important is grit, is the willingness to push through the physical pain associated with flipping homes. At my peak year, I was doing 123 flips. Think about that. That means I bought 123 homes, designed and renovated 123 homes, and then sold 123 homes in a short 12-month period. And I did it with 2 fucking people, plus me, so 3 total. Now, what am I getting at with that? There were moments that I was in physical pain, sitting at the office at 9:45 at night after having worked since 6 in the morning, reviewing bids, because if I didn't review and approve that bid, that meant that the job didn't get started on that house the next day. And I would sit here and I could actually consciously remember saying to myself, I am in physical pain, and I would tell myself, push through. How bad do you want it? And that was the thing, is every day I asked, how bad do I want it? And I just don't know many people that age-wise, journey-wise, that were similar to me have proved that they wanted it as bad as I did. And the reality is that my results today reflect that. There was no amount of ass. There was no amount of alcohol. There was no amount of distraction. There was no amount of entertainment, of FOMO, Nothing came between me and wanting to accomplish my goal of being a young, wealthy man. And that is such a powerful message, and I hope you're hearing it the way that I'm trying to translate it, is that you have to want it so bad. And if you don't, that's fine. You don't have to want it as bad as I did, but just know you gotta have to want it. You gotta be willing to accept and endure pain, sacrifice, anguish in exchange for wealth. That's why there's two types of guys that drive a Lamborghini. It's the kid that rented it and he's got a fucking smile on his face, and you look down at him at the light and he's fucking giddy and he's excited to be driving his Lambo. And then there's the second guy, the 55-year-old guy that looks fucking pissed and he's angry and he's sitting there at the fucking light wondering why it hasn't fucking turned green yet, but you just feel that angry energy off of him. And that motherfucker's the guy that earned it. And on his way to earning it, he'd have been fucked 100 fucking times and he got back up every single time. So let's talk about the next lesson. Taking this much money and making it look like you spent this much money. What does that mean? It's just getting creative. You have to be so incredibly creative here because anybody can fucking design themselves a beautiful flip with no budget. Of course I can. I just go on Google and I fucking hire the ABC contractor, show them a few pictures and say, build this. You can come back in a few weeks and it'll be done. But that's not house flipping. House flipping, the true skill is the ability to take this much money and make it look like you spent this much money. And in addition to delivering quality, because you have to think that the goods, the renovation, the product that you put into this home has to last for many, 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 many years. So the challenges are everywhere. Quality product, quality design, quality function of the floor plan, all on a limited budget. But it can be done, obviously. I've done it many times. But it's about getting creative. And so there's homes that I've had to touch from literally the gutter, the curb, and then my piece of land started. I didn't even get a sidewalk. Usually you get a sidewalk and then it starts. No, it was fucking gutter, curb, and then me. And I've had to touch that fucking house from that moment all the way to the back of the house where I had to stucco the back wall and paint it to make sure that everything came together. And so the point is that house flipping requires a tremendous amount of creativity and problem-solving skills. So if you have that, then you're off to a great start. If you don't, it doesn't mean you can't learn it. You can learn all of these skills, but you have to be conscious of the ones to focus on and practice the most. So if somebody comes to you and goes, here's your bid, it's $5,000 and it's $2,000 more than what you had budgeted for, then you have to stop and go get creative. Something that I don't do, speaking of bids, is I don't just go straight to the profit of the person providing me the bid, because that will be a short-term relationship, and short-term relationships aren't worthy relationships. He will go, I make no money with this customer, and or he's gonna have to do scandalous, shady shit to be able to pull off the job of which you'll ultimately be the victim of. So to me, when I get a bid that's too high and I need it lower, I ask them, what can we do different to get the price down? What goods or services that you're providing can we remove to bring the price down? I don't go, well, could we cut your profit in half? Like, I wouldn't want to work with that guy. I'd be like, no, man, how am I going to make a living? So to me, it's about reducing the services and the product and or the design, or finding cheaper ways, or doing more gravel instead of turf, or doing carpet in bedrooms instead of LVP, or doing 5-inch baseboard instead of 7, or doing pure white quartz instead of Calcutta, or doing 32-inch uppers instead of 42. And if you understand the flipping game, you'll understand that lingo there. But that's what I'm saying. You can still ensure that the person that's providing this incredible service to you can make a living, and you could still provide a great product if you get creative. Can't wait to be my own boss. Then I don't have to answer to anybody. Get the fuck out of here. That shows how fucking delusional you are to think that that's a reality. Allow me to explain. So I own Galindo Group Real Estate. I own multiple rental properties. I am the boss to 11 employees. I don't even like to call them that, but I'm making a point here. I have 185 agents that hang their license here. I'm the boss. No, that means I have 185 bosses in the form of real estate agents. I have 80 plus bosses in the forms of my rental properties. I have 11 plus bosses in the form of employees. Because the reality is that once you become a boss, you end up at the beck and call of all of the people that you employ or that you empower to ensure that you do well with your business. What does that mean? You have to become incredibly emotionally in tune. Your intellectual intelligence has to be really powerful, really strong. It has to be good, because you have to be able to be firm to ensure that the vision of the company is moving in the right direction. But you also have to be compassionate, because they're fucking humans and humans are imperfect. And if you just fire everybody like they think that you can do in the movies, then nobody will work for you. So it's incredibly important to be able to be compassionate to the human element and be firm to ensure that the business is moving in the direction that we all want it to be moving. Intellectual intelligence and emotional IQ is incredibly important. Next lesson. I care more about accomplishing your goals and the goals that I have set out for myself than I care about your feelings. Let that sink in for a second. What is that? That's called just being accountable. We all came together as a group and we said, this is the goal that we are going to accomplish. And then as soon as we set out to accomplish it, and maybe one team member all of a sudden isn't carrying their weight or pulling their weight as much as we had thought they would. If I didn't hold that team member accountable, then the whole team begins to fail. And I'm afraid to hold them accountable because that's the reason most folks are afraid to hold people accountable is for one reason: feelings. So you're willing to sacrifice your success in exchange to not have to experience a feeling. That's pretty powerful, actually. I'm gonna let that one sit for a moment. You're willing to sacrifice your success, all of the incredible experiences that you would be able to have outside of work with your intimate loved ones because you're afraid to challenge somebody because of your feelings. That's all that comes down to. And that's a statement that I always make. That's why I started this lesson with it, is I care more about accomplishing your goals and the goals that I have set for myself than I care about your feelings. Now, obviously there has to be some tact and finesse and some skill in communicating all that. You can't just be a ravaged, psychopath, lunatic boss. You can't be that way. Otherwise, again, nobody will work for you. But it's incredibly important that holding people accountable is a common practice in your business. What does that mean? Think about a team like the Dallas Cowboys. If all of a sudden their quarterback sucks, they're not all like, we don't want to tell him because we might hurt his feelings. Think about that for a second. They're like, dude, I have worked since I was 5 years old, putting these pads on, coming to practice. Am I really gonna let this quarterback's feelings dictate the rest of my success? That's the same fucking thing with business, guys. And what is important is that your team should all come together and call out that person. I wouldn't want to be on a team that doesn't encourage holding each other accountable and promoting each other to be the best version of themselves. If I fuck up, I want to be called out. Why? Because I know ultimately it will lead to more success for me. Holding people accountable is so incredibly important. But here's the main thing, is if you're gonna dare hold somebody accountable, you better be fucking prepared to be held accountable. So that's gonna wrap up today, guys. Those are all incredible lessons that I had to endure a lot of pain, sweat, tears, blood, lack of sleep so that I could shorten your learning curve by giving it to you. So I hope that you liked all that. But if you didn't, we love feedback. Feel free to talk a whole bunch of shit below and let us know what we could do better, because this is pointless if we're not actually helping people. So if we didn't help you, then please tell us why. Go into detail. And if you like hearing these stories and you want to see like how I roll and jam throughout my day, we have this incredible vlog on YouTube. You can click the link right here. You can see me in action, working on the business, making day-to-day decisions, and you'll see the big decisions and the small decisions, but you get to see it all. So go check out the vlog.